Why did The Guardian publish a cartoon that blames Jewish victims of October 7th for their own fate and implies that Jews living in their historic homeland is itself an act of incitement? Joe Sacco is the anti-Israel artist behind the 2009 book Footnotes in Gaza, while Art Spiegelman is known for his 1991 graphic novel Mouse, based on his father's experiences as a Holocaust survivor. The two cartoonists teamed up to weaponize the Holocaust against the Jews, finding a natural home in The Guardian. The bold red heading "Never Again" and again and again announces upfront that Sacco and Spiegelman are evoking the Holocaust as they reflect on the situation in Gaza. Israel's military response to Hamas's war of aggression is framed as revenge. The biblical reference, an eye for an eye, a favourite trope of anti-Semites who wish to indict Judaism as brutal, contextualises the blood-stained hands of the Israeli Prime Minister. They justify accusations of genocide by citing starving babies in Gaza as if Israel intentionally starved Palestinian children. To do that, they have to ignore the evidence contradicting the propagandistic starvation narrative. They evoke the Holocaust again with Spiegelman's claim that in writing Mouse he wasn't making Auschwitz for beginners, and he doesn't want his work to ever be used as a recruiting poster for the Israeli army. Despite their fondness for Holocaust references, the cartoonists make no mention of the starved Israeli hostages whose emaciated appearance upon release was redolent of Holocaust survivors. The cartoonists' imagery of an explosion may be an allusion to terrorism in general, or the October 7th attack, but they seem to present it as evidence for Spiegelman's conclusion that Israel may be a failed experiment. But Israel is a living, thriving state that's home to nearly half the world's Jews, not a 76-year-long experiment to test the practicality of Jewish sovereignty. Most Jews recognise the genocidal anti-Semitism of the terrorists on Israel's borders as ample evidence for the moral necessity of Zionism, but Spiegelman effectively blames the Jewish victims themselves as if the mere presence of Jews in their historic homeland is an act of incitement. The cartoonists' decree Zionism was built on a flawed premise. Their ahistorical account depicts Jews as wealthy, arrogant Western interlopers. It erases that Jews in fact fled persecution in Europe and the Middle East to return to their ancestral land, that Jews had a continuous presence in the land, and that Palestinian Arab leaders have turned down opportunities for a state of their own. Sacco's exclamation, "If you bomb people into rubble and kill their loved ones, what do you expect?" perfectly encapsulates the worldview beloved by The Guardian, that Hamas and its supporters aren't responsible for the terrorism they unleash and their grievances are legitimate. The final frame repeats the "never again for anyone" message. To hammer it home for anyone who hasn't yet gotten their point that Israel's war against Hamas is like the Holocaust, Spiegelman refers to a final solution. While the artists briefly condemn the October 7th atrocities, their real outrage is reserved for Israel's response to the massacre of its people. They erase the perpetrators of that bloody pogrom and its victims. Their imagery depicts destruction in Gaza, never the Israeli communities ravaged by Palestinian terrorists. Their portrayal fits right in at The Guardian, which for over 16 months has almost entirely failed to tell the story of the war in its proper sequence. That would require honesty, starting with Hamas's decision to launch the war with an unprovoked attack on October 7th, murdering innocent men, women and children in the worst anti-Semitic massacre since the Holocaust. Unfortunately, honesty seems to be in short supply at the outlet.